One middle-aged guy tried to work one thing out. One middle-aged guy tried to work one thing out.
Hey everybody, dear listeners, 1, 2, 10 of you. I don't know how many there are, but thank you. Thank you for taking a moment to listen to me, by myself, just Dave, one middle-aged guy. I want to talk to you about something very important. The biggest movie in America at this minute. Not the one that Christopher Nolan made, but the other biggest movie in America at this minute, with Tom Holland and Zendaya, or I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. The other one, Spiderman, Brand New Home. I'm sorry, No More Days. Brand new Spider-Man, brought to you by Zillow. I believe this is the one where Spider-Man is looking for his new apartment on apartments.com. Maybe I'm getting them mixed up. No, I'm just kidding. I know what this movie is. Spider-Man. I had to think about it for a second. Spider-Man, Brand New Day. Almost genuinely forgot the name of the movie. I want to talk to you all for just a moment, just me, by myself, about this movie. Just got out of seeing it. And I want to just give my raw thoughts about it. I want to warn you all. This is going to be spoiler-free. I'm sorry. I would back that up. This is going to be spoiler-filled. I hope you listened closely and you don't continue listening. If you do not want to be spoiled, then you should not listen to this, because I am going to lay it all out here. There's no other way to talk about this movie or movies of this sort, I think, than just without just spoiling the heck out of it. So that's what I'm going to do. So if you care, if you don't want this ruined for you in any way, you just need to pause it. Maybe go buy another phone as a backup while you leave this on pause. If you're listening on your phone, go see the movie, whatever you need to do, and then come back. Charge your phone, make sure it's all plugged in. You don't want to like lose power, and then I don't know. Then you lose your place. You have to find the podcast again. That'd be just a real shame. But just go watch the movie, or if you don't care, then listen. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to spoil this, and not only am I going to spoil Spider-Man Brand New Day, I'm going to spoil the rest of the Spider-Man films, all the others. So if you haven't seen those, go and watch those. Go spend 8 hours on Disney Plus and binge the other 3 leading up to this. And there's also like 30 Marvel movies tied into this. And then there's the old Fox Spider-Man, an Amazing Spider-Man. I mean, really, I'm going to spoil it all. So you should be up to date on all media from, I'd just say, 1920 to this very minute, 2026, including the new Spider-Man, Brand New Day. If you are not fully up to date on all media produced in the last 106 years, it might be ruined for you by this podcast. I just want to warn you. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about my journey into this. I did not want anything to ruin this film for me, personally. I read no spoilers. I watched no trailers for this. I truly did not. I did not watch a full. I saw they were posted. I didn't watch them. Did not want anything to ruin the experience for me. I saw the posters, which were based in many cases on comic book covers. I got little hints from TV spots here and there, but truly, I did not want any of this ruined. I wanted to experience it, as fresh as possible, and with nobody tainting that, or even my own ideas about it from commercials and trailers or behind the scenes articles or reviews or anything like that. I did not want any of those things affecting how I saw this movie. I wanted to watch it, make the decision for myself. I was also really excited because I like Spider-Man, like a lot of people, like comic book people and non-comic book people alike. Spider-Man is just a beloved fictional character. A lot of fun. And I wanted to experience this. I saw all of the other Spider-Man movies, and I'm going way back from the Tobey Maguire days to the Andrew Garfield days, all the way through Tom Holland, current MCU Sony state. I saw them all like opening week, so very interested, very excited. And this movie, all right, you've been warned. This movie is a mixed bag. Leaning good, leaning even great. But it's not without its flaws. It's not an unalloyed, wonderful film experience. It does have some dings against it, you could say. But overall, big picture, this is probably the best thing that Marvel has made since Endgame. Really, actually, I would say probably since Infinity War. And that includes better than No Way Home, the previous Spider-Man movie, which I did recently rewatch in preparation for seeing this. And I developed some new ideas about that. My position on that film has changed. But I don't want to get distracted by that. Brand New Day is pretty darn great. Let's say what's great about it. Let's walk through it, right? If you are with me and you've seen it, this is a story that picks up a full 4 to 5 years after Spider-Man No Way Home. It is still in the mainline MCU. No one knows who Peter Parker is anymore. He's been erased from memory. Aunt May is dead. His connections to Stark World are severed. Happy Hogan doesn't know who he is. Pepper Potts doesn't know who he is because, everybody forgot who he was. All of his old buddies, Ned and MJ, they don't know who he is. He's just Peter Parker, a shadow of a person. And most of his energy is devoted to friendly neighborhood Spider-Manning. And it catches you up pretty quick on that. The movie does with some effective montage type tricks, and it's great. It gets you right in. This Spider-Man is not particularly happy. He is a little hollow. He's pining for his old life and his old friends and Aunt May. And he's living out his best Spider-Man existence, that he can. That setup is pretty great. I enjoy it very much. In fact, that first act is dedicated to just establishing that world. Like, this is not a Peter Parker who's in a great place. In fact, this is barely a Peter Parker. He's a Spider-Man who, without his mask, lives in a crappy apartment. It doesn't have a whole lot else going on. Also introduces you a bit to the rest of the world. You see snippets of an MJ and a Ned who are living their life without Peter in it. And you see that Peter has established a friendship with sort of a frenemy type relationship with Frank Castle, the Punisher. Played by John Bernthal. I don't think he says his signature, "Let me tell you something" line. I don't think he does. I listened for it, but I was interested in the rest of the movie, so I wasn't distracted with Bernthal watch. But he's in it. He's in his best performance as Frank Castle overall, I think, giving him dimension and heart that he hasn't had in most of his other performances. Really enjoyed that. The other big connections, I should say, to the broader Marvel Universe are a brief appearance by the new Black Widow, Yelena something or another. I don't remember her last name. Doesn't matter. She's the new Black Widow. And Mark Ruffalo. He's kind of gruff and silly. Kind of just made up that name for him. Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner, the Hulk. Shoehorned in, there for a reason, and you'll get it when you see the movie. Don't need to get into that, but just really, man, I'm just so burned out on this guy. The 30 seconds you see of him truly hulked out in his savage Hulk form are great, but the rest of the time as just Mark Ruffalo in Mark Ruffalo street clothes and as Professor Hulk. Man, it's like, oh man, I'm so tired. I'm so burned out. We gotta, move on from this. And he's in the movie. It has a point. It mostly makes sense, but it's just, I don't know. He's not great. He's not a great Hulk. He's not a great Bruce Banner. And he's not in his best form here, I'll say, at all. And then we have making her MCU debut is Jean Grey. And in a surprising role as the antagonist, as the sort of kind of villain. And I warned you about spoilers. Really pretty awful, pretty villainous. But she's great as Jean Grey. And I loved it. I actually loved the way they handled her. And I think that there was some sort of sweeping under the rug of her actions in the first 2/3 of the movie that happened in the last act that were, probably not the best way to have dealt with such difficult, challenging topics. But, they did what they did, right? And but for the most part, 99% of what they did with Jean Grey, I really enjoyed and thought it was really cool the way that they handled it. And telepathy and telekinesis and, mind control and all that has been shown in different movies in different ways. But this one's really cool. And I enjoyed it a lot. It kind of reminds me of that Denzel Washington, John Goodman film where with the devil possessing people. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm sure somebody knows it. I didn't even think about that until I was here in front of the microphone. But it does a really cool job of visually showing that body hopping, possession, mind control stuff. And as silly as it kind of is, and as many plot holes as that introduced, it was really darn cool, and I liked it. For the most part, the weak spots, man. Bringing back Ned and bringing back MJ and Zendaya not learning any new facial expressions in her, decade playing, this character or however long it's been, 9 or 8 years. She's basically not grown at all as an actress. And I get she's in everything. And I think everything she touches, she makes a little worse. And I would describe her impact on this film. It's not inert. It's worse than that. It reminds me a bit of what her portrayal of Chani was in Dune, in that it was changed to make her character, Zendaya, I'm not sure. I think I may be adding some extra ends. Like the moral center of the film, and every decision that she makes is the right decision. Every observation that MJ makes is the right observation, and it's poignant, and everyone must like her and must agree with her. And if she says she likes another character, that's a stamp of approval on that character. When she says, I like Frank Castle, you, as the viewer, are also allowed to like Frank Castle. And when Frank Castle says, I like that MJ gal, you are like, I agree with Frank Castle. He's showing good judgment. That's the role that she plays in this, which is very similar to what she did as Chani in Dune, where she exists to point out the flaws in other characters and to moralize and to be the personification of high ground and righteousness. And it just honestly doesn't work, especially like Chani, when MJ is wrong about something or is just pouty for no reason or throwing a fit for no reason or whatever. It just does not. It doesn't work. Listen, I get she's a hot actress, but she's just not a very good actress. So anyway, I just would sincerely hope that maybe she learns some new facial moves, right? She can show something other than boredom/annoyance. She always looks like, I described to my wife, she always looks like she just smelled something bad, like somebody just microwaved fish in front of her, is how Zendaya looks. And she's just kind of annoyed, like, oh man, why'd you microwave that fish? Why'd you erase my memory? That sort of thing. Normal stuff. Anyway, and Ned's fine, right? He's the same character he always was, which is weird because it's like 5 years later, he's an adult now. He's the exact same Lego playing with character. But whatever growth, whatever sacrifice that those two characters made in No Way Home was kind of erased by this movie and the weird handling of them and outs that they had for explaining why they were important for this film, other than just to give Spider-Man something to be sad about, as if, his aunt dying wasn't sad enough, or, everyone forgetting everything about him that they ever knew him, or his mentor Tony Stark being dead. Tony didn't come up at all. That wasn't, sad enough. So he had to, look out and see his friends living full, happy lives and be sad about that. And that's how you knew he was truly sad. Anyway, there was other stuff going on in the film. It's overstuffed. It's like 2 hours and 25 minutes. They could have shaved 20 or so minutes and still given us a great film, an even better film. There's some incredible action set pieces. This is Spider-Man looking, moving, acting in costume more like Spider-Man than truly, I think, ever on film. And, wonderful. It's so cool looking. The director, Daniel Destin Cretton, or Destin Daniel Cretton, I can't remember. I've got the Destin and the Daniel mixed up, as we often do get when people have multiple names. Sometimes you get them mixed up. He did such a great job directing the action. So great that it kind of makes that second act, this long stretch where there's just a lot of talky and MJ poutedness, where you're supposed to feel bad for MJ and be outraged at the things that MJ is outraged about. I know, it's obvious. I don't think she's a great character. I don't think Zendaya is a great actress. But just, let me just get in one last take. That middle section of the film, it's definitely lacking the action, and it drags a bit. Right? Could have been tightened up. That first act, that third act, awesome. You see Spider-Man action. You see cool Spider-Man stuff. He lays off the tech a bit, not as much as I was hoping. I thought we're going to get, sort of grassroots, the Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield level, not Starkified tech from this film. We don't quite go there, right? It's he's got a magic 3D printer that can, print anything his mind conceives of. He's super genius, which we know Peter Parker is, but it does, it stretches credulity even for a comic book movie at times. And it's just a little silly. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more, like a little bit more homemadey Spider-Man, kind of like what we got in the first part of Far From Home, that sort of thing. I was hoping we'd get more of that. But, it's fine. We didn't, right? It's clearly the direction they're going, that they think Spider-Man needs all this tech. He doesn't really. There's a few things missing from this film. Gosh, so here's the thing I'm going to say. The MCU Spider-Man decided that a Spider-Man without an Uncle Ben was okay. And I think we all accepted that because it was like, okay, right? How many more times do we need the Spider-Man origin story, him getting bit by the radioactive spider, him being the cause of his uncle's death, that forcing or leading him into his life of crime fighting? I get it. We've seen it before. We don't need to see it again. But that was an absence that was felt. Okay. And I get it, right? We had Tony Stark. He was the fill-in for Uncle Ben. All right. They're missing other stuff, though. It becomes quite obvious with this Peter Parker that we needed something to fill in some more, flesh out the gaps of our current Peter Parker, right? We don't have J. Jonah Jameson. He's not in this film. We don't have Spider-Man struggling to survive. He's not taking pictures for the Daily Bugle. He's not delivering pizzas. He's not getting by on the skin of his teeth. He is living in a crappy apartment, sure. But we're not getting the rest of that stuff that was so important to Peter Parker, always on the edge of, starvation and poverty in the comics and in the other films. We don't get that in this version of Spider-Man. He's not working. He's just... In fact, Peter Parker's barely there. He's just a shadow, which I kind of get, right? But at the same time, we needed to see a little bit of the Parker struggle, I think, in order for the importance of him regaining his identity as a human, not just being a man who's also part spider. We needed to see a little bit more of that to understand what he had sacrificed, just beyond, sacrificing MJ and Ned. That's a gap. It's missing. It's an unfortunate gap. But, it is what it is, right? They decided to lean into the things that they're leaning into. They give us a really interesting antagonist, villain, and then her actions are kind of whitewashed in Jean Grey, which I think opens the door for mutants in mutation in a really cool way. Not really sure why they're doing that now when they've got Doomsday and Secret Wars that are going to come and sort of reset the whole timeline. I'm not really sure why this sort of setup in a Spider-Man movie, why that's needed, right? But, maybe Marvel's got to figure it out. I don't know. It just seems like introducing the X-Men mutations now when everything's going to get jumbled up and reset in the next 18 months. Just not really sure what the point of that is, but, whatever, right? I guess we'll see what we see. So what do I think of it? Gosh, I would say it's 3.5 stars solidly. Could have been a 4-star film with a little bit of trimming and a little less focus on the parts of Peter Parker's life, like his friends. They could have had an emotional connection. We did have some nice Aunt May flashbacks. We could have got it in other ways too. It just didn't have to be with Ned and Zendaya. They focused on that a little bit too much. They also focus on some other stuff with his rogues gallery that makes you wonder, like, hey, I mean, I don't know, a couple of weird choices with Scorpion, but whatever. At least we got something, right? I don't know. Not a perfect film, but a pretty darn good one, and better than what we've gotten from Marvel over the course of the last several years by far. And I did mention that I went back and rewatched some Spider-Mans, getting myself prepared, and I do want to say this. I did rewatch No Way Home. And I have to say, I praised that movie. I loved that movie. I thought it was great. A fresh rewatch of it will show so many flaws with No Way Home. And I was really quite sad. I was like, oh, I realized the things I loved about this movie. It was all about the nostalgia. It was about the villains returning. It was about, Alfred Molina, great Doc Ock. The second best performance of Alfred Molina's career, after, of course, the throw me the whip guy from Raiders of the Lost Ark, Alfred Molina's Doc Ock. You realize, though, that the whole movie is carried by that nostalgia, by Garfield, by Tobey Maguire, by the Rogues Gallery, right? And it's pretty hollow without those. In fact, it's you take those out of it, and it's actually kind of a poor film. So I was a little sad by that, but I didn't let that color my perception of this new Spider-Man and its brand new dayedness. You got a new movie, you got a new day. I was really looking forward to it, and for the most part, it delivered. But it wasn't perfect, and it makes me very curious where they're going to take the new Marvel. Curious what impact that Secret Wars and Doomsday are going to have. I'm kind of concerned that maybe they're not going to be as reset-y as we think that they might be or that they need to be. That if they're laying the groundwork in advance of those films, I don't know. We'll see where it goes. But this, if you watch it, you may have some conclusions like, oh, well, maybe they're not going to reset as much as we thought. If Jean Grey being introduced here is so darn important, if we're still talking about things like the Department of Damage Control and all that stuff. Well, anyways, that's me by myself, one guy. I hope you enjoyed this, and if I spoiled it for you, I would just suggest you go back and re-listen to my first 5 minutes, and you'll realize that I warned you. I begged you to not listen to this. As all great podcasts do, we say, please don't listen to us. Anyway, that's it. That's me. Chris and I will be back with some more stuff. We've had a little bit of a break. We'll be back with some more good stuff. I promise it won't just be me on my own. Thank you, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for listening.